to welcome you guys back to our 40 horsepower rebuild. And what we've done so far is assemble the crankshaft and the camshaft and the case half. Volkswagen engines, the air-cooled, are split. The cases of the engine are two halves. So what we did is we assembled our rods, the crankshaft is in, all the main bearings are in, the camshaft is lined up. What we're going to do is seal it and drop our case half on. You can see here we used high performance camshaft and a gear. It's just a slightly higher level than a stock one, just to give this gentleman a little more get up and go, since he only has 40 horsepower to start with. One of the things about this I wanted to point out, just as interesting, is Volkswagen air-cooled do not have a seal in the front of the crankshaft. They use what's called a slinger, an oil slinger. And as you see in the front here, the oil that's inside the engine comes in contact with the slinger and it flings it back into the case and keeps the oil inside the case. It's interesting because there is no seal at all in air-cooled Volkswagen. And they don't have leak issues. So it's really an interesting setup the way you have it. You can see here on our rods, these polished areas are because it's been balanced. All the rods have been balanced, the crankshaft has been balanced, and then what they do is remove some material from the top of the pins of the rod to keep them in balance. Likewise on the crankshaft, you can see here, there's a polished area. That's to balance the crankshaft. Even the drilling, there's a drilling area here you'll see. I can move it over to get a little better shot. A drilling area here is drilled out to balance, take metal off the crank, keep it balanced. So when we're spinning, our RPMs are increasing, it's going to be a really smooth running engine. That's what we want to do for this customer. The last thing I wanted to show you is what we're going to do here is on our, this is the oil pump for this car. And what we've done for him too is we've using a high performance, or they call it a high flow oil pump. The stock pump, the depth of these gears they're smaller. These are a little bit longer than the original, and it gives it more oil flow. So we're going to put this on for the gentleman too. What we'll do next is when we get it back together, we'll show you the case and the heads. That's segment 3. Take care. On this part of our 40 horsepower rebuild, we're sealing the case. And what's particular about the case on a Volkswagen air-cooled is there is no gasket between the two halves. What we use is, you can use a couple of different sealers. The old standby is a Permatex Aviation. What we do is we dab it on the case halves, not too much, because you put it on both sides, and this is the second half here, and the excess gets squeezed out. But this is the only thing that keeps the oil in the case, and it's amazing how it does such a good job. It'll last the lifetime of the engine. And we'll dab that on, and they're ready to put the two halves together. One thing that's important, you always want to check the cam gear alignment with the crank. There's a dot marked on the cam gear and on the crank gear that have to line up to make sure your number one cylinder is at top dead center in correlation with the camshaft. I think we're ready to put the half on. These are the lifters here that just stick into the bores. Before you put the case together, you want to make sure all those are intact. You have another main bearing on this half, and that's basically it on this half. The other half here has the cam and the crank. They made a special tool to hold the rods up, and sometimes, I've done so many of these, sometimes I can balance them and drop the case off all at the same time. But you got to be quick about it. oil. And there you have it. The rods are still intact. You can take a brass or a copper hammer, and you should be able to tap the case down lightly to see it. There's pins that are built into the case on two ends of the case. Once you line those in, it pulls in, good. These are the main webs, the bearings that we're putting the nuts on. What I'm going to do is just run down the two centers just to pull it together. One thing, once I pull these haps flush, you want to check and make sure that the crank doesn't lock up. Sometimes you have to tighten all the bolts. But you can see, I can take my hand and we can rotate the crank right now, so we're good. And as long as we pull the case in, you can still rotate it, and we know that we've got it in the right position. That's what it looks like. Case half together. Once we get the piston cylinders on, we'll come back and look at it again.